What's new? About 5,000 migrants, mostly Venezuelans, prepared as they heard the train approaching, in an effort to reach the United States. Families with young children climbed onto cardboard boxes, while young men and women dismantled tents under a nearby bridge to quickly pack their belongings. When the train reached the outskirts of the central Mexican city of Irapuato, some were able to easily climb onto the metal wagons, while others threw their bags and held their young children wrapped in winter coats. Excitement and encouragement spread among the crowd, with some expressing gratitude to Mexico. After 3 days of waiting, many in the group feared the train would never arrive, but it ultimately represented their ticket northward, towards the Mexico-US border. Last week, thousands of other migrants were stranded in various parts of the country after Mexico's main railway company announced the suspension of 30 freight convoys. Ferromex, the company in question, argued that the large number of migrants boarding trains made it dangerous to move them, and unfortunately, several incidents of injuries or fatalities occurred in just a few days. When the train finally arrived on Saturday, many of the wagons were marked as property of Ferromex. While local police were nearby the makeshift camp where migrants were waiting, they did not attempt to prevent them from boarding the train during its 30-minute stop, despite the dangers associated with drug cartels and other risks when boarding the wagons. Migrants have been using these freight convoys, commonly known as La Bestia, as a means of traveling north for a long time. The interruption of the service temporarily halted one of the country's busiest migration routes amid a significant increase in migration, leaving families like Mila Villegas's in an uncertain situation. Villegas, along with her partner and their 6 children, spent 3 days sleeping on the concrete floor alongside numerous other migrants. Before boarding the train, this Venezuelan family mentioned that they had barely prepared enough food to survive for a few days of train travel and were struggling to feed their children. Fortunately, they received donations of bread, as they could not afford a hotel room. The suspension of railway services also reflects the historic numbers of people heading north in search of a new life in the United States, posing a dilemma for countries in the region grappling with the challenge of managing a large number of migrants crossing their territories. When thousands of migrants crossed the border into Eagle Pass, Texas, in just a few days, the border town declared a state of emergency. In August, the U.S. Border Patrol detained 181,509 individuals at the Mexico-US border, a 37% increase from July but nearly the same as in August 2022. Although significantly lower than the 220,000 detentions in December, according to recently published figures. These arrivals have interrupted a downward trend in numbers since the implementation of new asylum restrictions in May. They are occurring after several years of consistent increases in migration due to economic crisis and political and social instability in many of the migrants' home countries. In the past, only a few dozen migrants from Central American countries used to pass through Irapuato by train each day, according to Marta Ponce, a 73-year-old volunteer who has been providing assistance to travelers in her city for over a decade. Now, this number often reaches thousands, and what used to seem like a large group was 50 or 60 people, but it has now become common. Migrants come from various parts of the world, although Venezuelans fleeing their country's economic crisis make up the overwhelming majority. However, Marta Ponce has noticed the presence of people from different nationalities, including Africans, Russians, and Ukrainians. Most of them traverse the Darien jungle, a multi-day journey through the rugged border between Colombia and Panama. Previously, this crossing was considered extremely dangerous, and few attempted it. However, now the density of migrants crossing the dense jungles has turned it into a major migration route, similar to the trains crossing Mexico. Crossings through the Darien jungle have increased so much that they could reach 500,000 people in just this year. Villegas, whose family spent 3 days in Irapuato waiting for the train, was one of many who saw an opportunity in the Darien jungle. Her family is among the 7.7 million people who have left Venezuela in recent years and spent 3 years in Colombia. Although they managed to establish a small barbershop on the outskirts of the Colombian capital, growing xenophobia and low income made it difficult to support their family of 8 members. During the past summer, when a gang threatened them for not paying extortion money, Villegas and her partner, 32-year-old Yeder Liendo, made the decision to head to the United States. For them, the risks are worth it if they can provide a better future for their children, who used to consume yogurt from plastic bottles and slept together on the ground. According to Leendo, they were hoping to find opportunities, as well as access to education and a better quality of life for their children, at least while they were young. However, Faramex is not the only entity overwhelmed by the influx of people. Governments in the region also face significant challenges. Colombia, which has received the majority of migrants fleeing Venezuela, has been requesting assistance from the international community for some time. Panama and Costa Rica, on the other hand, have tightened their immigration policies and urged action regarding the hundreds of thousands of people crossing the Darien jungle. Panama has even launched a campaign called "Darien is a jungle, not a road." Meanwhile, the United States government has been pressuring Mexico and Central American countries to control migration flows, and it is now requiring asylum seekers to register through an app called CBP-1. The Joe Biden administration recently announced that it would grant temporary protected status to nearly 500,000 Venezuelans already in the country. Activists like Ponce expect migration along the railway lines to continue increasing. On Saturday morning, exhausted migrants boarded the train and cheered as the train continued its winding journey north. Comment on what you think of the news, give the video a like, and subscribe to the channel. If you find it necessary, you can share this video on your social media.